Hi, I'm Ben. Welcome to my book corner. We have another banned book review today, and we're carrying on with our Pride Month reads as well. This is part of my 24BB challenge, which was started by the amazing MJ over at Reading This Life. I will link their channel down below. And the one we're talking about today is The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, which came out in August of 2019. The version I've got is the paperback, which has got some lovely foiling effect on it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And this is probably the book I was most excited to get to this month, because every review I've read of this one has been so positive. And not just that, when I was actually picking this up in Waterstones when I went on my book haul a couple of months back, ready for this month, the lady who served me at the till and helped me find it, because I was struggling to find it in the store, said that this was one of their favourite books. But this is also a challenged book in the US. So, as always, we're going to start by talking about the challenged information, before we then move on to what the book is about and my feelings about it in general. So, let's see who's decided to challenge this one, if we have some familiar names. Starter for 10. Why do we think people have got the knickers in a twist over this one? Give you a second. Yep. LGBTQ+. There's not really any other reason for it. And I don't think that's a reason. I think that's an excuse for people to just be homophobic or racist. Take your pick. And I mention racist because what you have is a POC main character. Now, the main character has a number of challenges in terms of their place in the world. Now, what do I mean by that? So, first of all, in terms of cultural heritage, Michael is half Jamaican, half Cypriot, but growing up in London in the UK, so you have three very, very diverse cultural subsets influencing early life in particular. And what you therefore have is a situation where Michael doesn't feel Greek enough a lot of the time for part of his family. Doesn't feel black enough either. And then sticks out from a lot of their peers in London at the time. So you have this almost sense of isolation and disconnect going on. And, you know, there's a beautiful quote in here, which is, "You are a full human being. It's never as simple as being half and half." And I think that is an absolutely beautiful quote from the book. But you have the normal sort of situation, the basic life events, the finding your tribe, for want of a better word, you know, your connections as you go through school and college, and beginning to discover more and more about his own identity and trying to embrace different aspects of cultural identity as well, and it not quite working, and how that at times does single them out. And the judgment as well from people around him, especially family who, you know, want him to conform to their cultural norms, which again is not especially unusual because we impose cultural norms on the people around us by nature, because that's what we know. But you have this interesting dynamic here where you have the UK cultural norms, Cypriot and Jamaican, and they don't necessarily mesh very well. So you have this point where there's a sense of not belonging. But over time, Michael makes good friends, specifically with a young girl called Daisy, and eventually feels confident enough to come out, which is not a surprise to anybody. It needs to be said. And at this point, he kind of has this realization that whilst he struggled to accept who he was and really sort of internalize that, a lot of people around him had already recognized it and already accepted him for who he was, and it was about self-acceptance at that point. And then you hit university. University is the great throwing off of shackles for many people. And whilst away at university, discovers a drag society. And this is where they really learn to embrace who they are, because there's something about drag that really appeals to them, whether it's the performative aspect and the freedom that that gives, or exactly what it is. It's open to interpretation, right? But you get this really strong moment of, no, the person who should matter most to me is me, first and foremost. And that is highlighted by a little section in the text, which is, he is me, who I have been, who I am, who I hope to become. Someone fabulous, wild and strong, with or without a costume on. And it's that point of spent so much of their life at that point trying to play the role to get the people around them to accept them and be happy. And there's that moment of, no, I should just be me and not have to wear a costume to make other people happy. And that is such a powerful moment. Now, at this point, the book is being set in Brighton. So for those of you that don't know, Brighton is a seaside town here in the UK, city I should say. And it is also the LGBTQ plus capital of England. So I'm saying England, it might be the UK in general, but certainly for England. So there is a strong community and a vibrant community there that is, generally speaking, very, very, very positive and very, very supportive and a lot more enabling to the sort of journey that Michael is going on. And this culminates at the end with the nerves of doing their first drag show, which is poetry based. They've got slides. It's a very different sort of drag show, and that's fine because it's unique to Michael. It's an expression of their personality, and it's that final moment of, this is me. And the encouragement that Michael gets from a number of the other performers is absolutely key to this, as well as the support of family and friends as well. And it's exceptionally powerful in those moments, and that rejection of the people who've been kind of against him or judgmental of him for various reasons throughout their life. Now, I do need to talk about the presentation of this book, because I didn't know going in that this was poetry. Now, when I say poetry, I don't know what the definition of poetry is, so I will reword it to, this is a book that is written in verse, which made it a very different reading experience to all the other books I have read this year. Not just that, though, this book does contain a number of visual aids, be that little illustrations. You also have examples of like text message or messenger conversations. You have moments where the colours of the actual pages invert around as well to really drive home either locations or emotional moods, feelings, situations, or just to kind of help reinforce the visual of the wording on page as well, which makes this a quite a dense reading experience, because it's not just a reading experience, because you have a lot of rhythmic and visual cues to pull on as well, which makes this a very different book to what I'm used to. Final thoughts on this, and I'm going to start with my thoughts on the bans, which I think I've already given, but I'm going to give it again here. Those that paperwork for bans, put it in the bin, set fire to the bin, throw a few more of the bans in there as well, actually, in the challenges, delete it off your computers, put these books back on library shelves. There is nothing in here. This is a relatively basic growing up story, told in a really interesting and creative way. Just put it back on the shelves. Stop doing this. Stop depriving young people of literature that is going to help them find their place in the world, for the love of all that is holy. Stop it. Now, that being said, my biggest thing with this book is I wish I had listened to an audiobook, because this is poetry designed to be performed as a spoken performance rather than a written poem. And the spoken word performance, for obvious reasons, has more grounding in oral histories rather than written. And I think that's where my biggest challenge is with this book, because I have a similar issue reading this, bizarrely, that I have when I read classics. And that's an issue about my reading flow. And this is unique to me, and most people won't have this issue. And in fact, all the reviews I've seen for this pretty much are incredibly positive. and mine's not as positive simply because of the way that I read. And I've said this when I've spoken about classics, but when I read classics, I get thrown out of my reading flow very easily because of alterations in basic word structure and language that is natural over time, right? Generally, it tends to be language more than structure, but it's there. And it's a similar issue that I have with this. But the cause of the overall feeling is different. This is because of the way the book is structured, because it is structured as verse rather than contiguous writing. And so as a result of that, it throws my reading flow off, especially as there is a natural rhythm and flow to spoken word, which then doesn't mesh with my natural reading flow as well. So it's worth bearing that in mind, first of all. Now, despite that being said, you have a fascinating coming-of-age story here, and the various things that Michael goes through are really interesting to read about. You really sort of root for them. And at times you sit there going, what are you doing that for? And the thing is, you kind of feel sorry for them in that moment, because it's more because they don't have the touch points to make the decisions that are right for them. So they're trying to people please, for want of a better term. And that's not the way anyone should go in life. But you do need to survive first, and that's important. And you really end up rooting for Michael, especially towards the end when they discover the drag show and they're getting ready for their first performance, and they're still having to deal with some people that they've known for many years who are very bigoted and homophobic towards them. And that moment of snap, when they realise they can stand up for themselves and they are strong and they are powerful, they are valid and they are amazing, is exceptionally well done. And it makes the character not just lovable, but very easy to respect as well. And the ensemble cast as well are decently done. And the thing is as well, this doesn't show people that aren't flawed. Even people close to Michael show opinions at times that, especially in one case, is internalized homophobia. And it takes time for them to come over that. And you see rifts that happen naturally in life forming and healing over time, although never quite the same. So overall, I did enjoy this. I'm probably going to pick up the audiobook at some point and give that a listen and see if that, as I suspect it will, improves my my thinking of it, because I suspect I'll enjoy that more, just like I do with classic books. But there we go. That is another banned book review for Pride Month. If you've watched this video all the way to the end, please, if you will, consider dropping a like. It's always appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed, I would love you to consider hitting that button as well. I hope you've all had a great day, you've enjoyed the video, and I will catch you all very soon.